Welcome back to Zwift podcast. Today we will have an interview with a special guest, Anton Schiffer, who was the Zwift Academy finalist in last year. He is also riding for Continental team in Germany, Bikeaid. He's a good climber and also a sports scientist and a coach.
Yeah, hello guys. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm really looking forward for the talk we have.
I invited Anton because last week there was a Zwift Academy final where there were new guys who received a contract to Alpecin and Canyon SRAM. And last year also Anton was participating in this event and was really close to win it. And how do you remember it? Because in the TV show they made you as a villain in the end.
Yeah, in general, I remember the time quite well. It was a good experience. Also, the whole team in the background and all the people were really nice. Of course, you don't have so much influence in the end what they make out of it, and I think there were a few scenes that were maybe not 100% correct, but in the end, I still think it was a very good experience. I learned a lot. And for sure, I didn't think it was a bad idea to participate.
And why did you in the end choose to participate and do the Zwift workouts?
Mm, Actually, I didn't had a big plan behind it. I just started the workouts as a kind of training after the off season. It was quite late in this year. I think the workouts were in November and December, and for sure it's bad weather in Germany, and you cannot do so much good workouts on the road. And so I switched in the indoor trainer and saw the program, and then thought, okay, I can give it a try. Also, the first workouts were not so good for my power, but as I knew I needed a bit of time to get back in shape and also get used to the trainer, I started with the shorter intervals, the 30-second and 2-minute efforts. And then I progressed to the longer efforts that also suit me more. And then I did a pretty good 5-minute, 8-minute, and 30-minute test in the end in the workouts, and the two races. I think they didn't had so much influence because I also didn't won them because I'm shit at indoor cycling or the tactics and all the sprinting and esports stuff you have to remember. So yeah, I started with the shorter workouts and then did quite good power numbers in the longer workouts, and then I got uh, into the first selection.
And how many guys are selected in the first selection?
Mm, they don't tell you exactly the number, but you have then to put a video up where you get on a scale and weigh yourself and do a measurement of your height and fill out a questionnaire. And after that, they invite you to a video call, and then they say around 30 guys are now in the process of yeah further selecting the final three finalists. And yeah, then it takes another month, and then you get the message that you are selected. Yeah.
And do you need to do anything else or more workouts in that month where they select the three guys?
No, no, no more workouts. They just, I think, till all the workouts are finished from everyone, and then they just look at the power numbers. I spoke to one of the guys who do the final selection, and they say they get a message every time someone hits a certain threshold in the power tests, and then they look into the guy, what what's his background, how old is he, has he done any races before, and then they select probably the best three or the most fitting three guys.
Yeah, because last year you were also racing in Tour of Turkey. Okay, it was in 2023. Also, also Portugal. You were quite new to cycling, also quite new at that time. So yeah, you were a good candidate probably for them.
Yeah, 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 I think so. I started with triathlon as a junior and youth athlete, and then later I switched to cycling. I think when I was 20 years old. First did a bit of amateur racing, like local crits or Grand Fondos also, and then I joined the Bike Aid development team. It's just a club level team but they work together with the Conti team. And then in 2023, I think it was, then and from 1st August, I got into the continental team of Bike It, and I did Portugal in this year and also Turkey. Yeah.
And why did you switch to cycling from triathlon?
Yeah, mostly because of injuries in running. I had quite a bit of different injuries over the years and couldn't really train how I wanted to. And then also the pandemic came, not much racing in triathlon. Swimming was a bit difficult, and then I did 1 year where I just didn't train so much, and then I thought I still miss a bit of the competitiveness and the training every day, and then I thought cycling is a good option. And also in the beginning it was quite successful in the amateur category because the level is not super high there, and I got quite a few podiums, and then you kind of want to stick to it.
And how many watts per kilo you could already push before the Zwift Academy? Like, what was your 5 minute power or 20 minute power?
20 minute I did one test in 2022. I think this is still to date my best one. I did 6.8 watts per kilo there. 5 minute I never really tried because also we have not a very good climb for that in my area, but maybe 7.5 watts per kilo. Now I'm at 8, but still my 20-minute records is from this year. But it was also done on a Quark power meter. Maybe they tend to read a bit high, so I think in a, a better estimate would be maybe 5% less or something.
Yes, and I already see that in Turkey you finished 16th on one of the modern stages against the strong competition, lost only 39 seconds to World Tour guys. Alexei Lutsenko, Victor Langolotti, who is right now riding for Ineos, so you already, like, in the first UCI races performed quite well.
Yeah, it was a mixed feeling in the beginning. In Portugal, I got sick, and also in Turkey, I got sick during the race. And also, it was a complete new level from the amateur races, which are mostly 1.5 hours, or maybe the longer ones are longer, but then they are just easy most of the time and only hard on a few climbs. And then going to UCI racing, it was a big step up in level, and still to this day, I feel like I struggle a bit with the longer races and the positioning, the hard racing out of every corner. But I try to progress also in this area, and I see I get better at it. And for sure, still some work to do for me.
Yes, and what was your reaction when you were announced as one of the three guys who were invited to Zwift Academy finals?
I was really happy, a bit surprised also. But then I try to prepare as good as I can. We did the finals in January in Spain in the Calpe area, and then I booked the training camp. Or I had booked the training camp before that already in Calpe with my girlfriend, and then I just did one more week, so I didn't have to fly back and forth. And then I did 3 weeks in Calpe, really good training efforts, and then straight to the finals. And I felt like I did a pretty good preparation, but then also I felt it during the season that it's for sure not the classic approach to be already on your best shape in January and then try to hold that shape for the whole year. So I struggled a bit during the season with that, but for sure it was a nice experience and a very cool environment with a professional team and the all the stuff. Yeah.
I remember you did some quite good efforts in Calpe in those 3 weeks before the Zwift finals. You did some max efforts on Colderates and other climbs, I remember.
Yeah. Sometimes I just like to do my intervals as a kind of KOM hunting, or only go for climbs. I pick 2 or 3 and then go full gas. I think I did, yeah, Colderates and also one of the climbs where they finished the Vuelta with
Uh,
Froome, I think one
Cumbre
of.
d'Ossol.
Yeah, this one. And there was also one from Mathieu van der Poel, one comma I attacked. And yeah, I just like to do my intervals, and this makes it more fun and yeah, a bit more yeah, competitiveness in the training sessions. Yeah.
And what were your expectations for the Zwift Academy when you arrived there on the first day?
Nah, I didn't had any specific expectations. I already knew that probably Mattia Gafuri would be also a finalist because a friend of mine sent me his Strava workouts and I saw his power numbers. And yeah, if I know that I'm selected and I see he did similar watts per kilo and even better absolute watts, then I also was pretty sure that he was a finalist. And then I already knew that the level would be high and that there are also other guys that are really fit. And the third guy, Louis Kitzky, the German younger guy, I didn't knew him before, so he was new for me. But yeah, I thought during the week I was really happy with my performance. I did, yeah, close to my best power numbers there. And yeah, in the end, you have no real influence on the outcome. But so during the week, I thought, okay, I have a good chance. But then in the end, also they have other motivations on how on which guy they choose in the end. So probably a bit younger. So he had a bit of an advantage in this regard.
Yeah, like you and Mattia were born in '99, and Luis was 5 years younger, so that also was the probably one of the main reasons why they selected him in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It also makes sense if you see he had a similar level. Not quite as good during the week, but I think especially in the online workouts we did for the qualification, he was really good there. And then you see he is 5 years younger, so probably has a bit more potential still to develop, and maybe also other stuff like maybe they looked into my Strava and see I did already quite a few hours last year, so. Uh, they knew that I don't have so much more room for, let's say, improvements in training, and yeah, it's already train quite professional, I would say. So yeah, maybe this is also something they considered.
Yeah, also that was the problem maybe with Mattia because he's also a sports coach and probably knows a lot of about sports science, and you both are training close to optimal. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, for sure. Um, at least we think that we train close to optimal. It's still a different topic if it is optimal. But yeah, just younger guys and less experience, so more room for improvement.
And before they announced the winner, how sure you were that you would win in the end?
Yeah, uh, actually, I thought it was between Mattia and me, so I was completely wrong in that. And also, Mattia, he was also thinking the same. We were talking about it uh, because also Luis had a crash on the last day, and after that, didn't do such a good test in the last day. But yeah, in the end, it's always the winner takes it all, and the other two are left alone. But yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, I see that last year, yeah, Luis didn't perform in the races. Yeah, okay, he was also only a second year under 23 rider. This year he was at least in the breakaway of Bessèges. And got another year on Alpecin, yeah, so got another chance. Also, Mattia this year is racing in the Greece. He right now finished the stage of Tour of Roads, was in the first group of 22 guys, so at least they can race on the road too.
Yeah. It's funny. Mattia already said that he don't want to go Conti level, so now he made his own club team and tries his luck on the road. But yeah, for sure, it's really high competition there. Even the smaller races, you need to be very good to get a top 10 or a win. So it's not so easy. And yeah, we will see. Maybe we race each other this year, and then it will be funny to see how we compete.
Yeah, it might happen, and also the thing with these, for example, Greece races or Croatian races that are happening. In those races, the under 23 teams are starting their best young guys. So yeah, the competition will be great, and then there are always the strongest Conti guys who might be older, but they also like can push really great watts. So yeah, the competition are great even in these lower level races.
Yeah, yeah. Last year, I also was in Greece for Tour of Hellas, and there Feldfelbermeier and RTT Investment, they rode really strong on the climbs. I think I did some calculations afterwards, and they did more than 6 watts per kilo on the last. I think it was a 40-minute climb. So for sure, it's not like even without the big teams and big names, still the level is not so bad. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was watching that stage live. It was stage three. It finished up, 12-kilometer climb with almost 9% gradient. Before that stage, it was already like super hard, and the level there was absolutely insane. I remember
Yeah.
that stage very, very good.
Yeah, it was also funny because we had rain and quite a thick fog on the first climb. So then we neutralized the race, stand 1 hour in the cold, and started the race again. And this already took so much out of me, and I dropped directly on the last climb. It was, yeah, a really hard day. I think before the last climb it was close to 4,000 kilojoules, and yeah, really hard. So I didn't perform there, but yeah, I will try again in 2 weeks. This year we are also racing there. So yeah,
Yeah, probably also Mattia might be there too.
yeah,
Good chance, probably. I remember after the Zwift Academy finals, didn't Bas Titema wrote you on Instagram in replies or something?
yeah. I had a few teams interested, also because I was good in Antalya directly after Zwift Academy. But in the end, yeah, nothing came out of it. So I stayed in continental level. Um, yeah, I think it's still quite a long way from having a few calls or meetings to finally get a place on a pro or virtual team. So yeah, I'm not sure how far I really got in this process, but in the end, yeah, it didn't work out. And also, I was not super happy with last year with my level and my performance in the races. So also, I didn't felt like I really, yeah, how to say, yeah, have to get a contract, or I really deserved it, let's say.
Yeah, because in Antalya, which was the first UC race you did, you finished 8th on the Mountain Top finish. I remember you did there quite good watts, yeah, like 6.2 watts per kilo for 20 minutes or close to that, and there was also strong competition. And yeah, after that stage or race, I thought maybe you would continue to perform in the UCI races.
Yeah, yeah. Also, that was my hope, but I felt like I lost a bit of form afterwards. This race I did close to or after the finals, and I still got the good shape from the preparation for that. And yeah, then I thought I can continue the whole year on this level, but in the end, you cannot stay the whole year on one level. You sometimes have to just take a break and then build up again. And this I didn't do last year, so it was a bit of yeah, a long season, also a bit of misplanning, let's say. But yeah, this year I don't have any finals, so I hope maybe I can be a bit more competitive in those races.
Yeah, I see that last year you also did the French climbing classics, yeah, Tour de Dops, Tour de, yeah, all those races, and you they're like they didn't perform quite well, like probably died already before the last climb, and how hard
Yeah.
are those races?
Yeah, the those races in France, not not just from the yeah the watts and average power and efforts you have to do, but also from positioning and riding in the bunch, small roads all the day hard. And as a Conti rider in those races, it's very difficult to position yourself because it's mostly World Tour teams. They're right in the front. Then the pro teams. Then you have the French Conti teams who are also very good and very well organized. And then you are the last person in the bunch most of the time who just has not a good position, and you spend so much energy just chasing after corners. After each descent there are gaps, and you have to do a full effort to get back to the front group. So yeah, and then they are also very long. I think everyone was above 4 hours every race, and then if you arrive after 3.5 hours, maybe 4 watts per kilo average for the whole day, and in those day maybe 500 to 800 efforts already above your threshold power, then for sure it's not so easy to perform there. But yeah, it's part of the sport. So if you want to be good in what you do, you also have to cope with that. So maybe the topic fatigue resistance, durability, it's important. Not only what you can do in your fresh state. So Zwift Academy workout, jump on the trainer and do 5 minutes, 8 watts per kilo, but also what you can do after a full day of racing and closing gaps. And yeah, I think this is the yeah, very specific part you have to excel in to be good in road cycling.
Yeah, because it's hard in those races because there are like racing very, very strong guys like David Godou, Lenny Martinez, and many more guys. Even Wiesma Lisa Bike this year will send their squad to those French races, so it's not getting easier.
No, for sure not. And also those teams, they know exactly what they do. So they look back, and then when they see the peloton is a full line, everyone is yeah already suffering. Then they just go the next time also full gas to hurt you even more and sprint out of corners. Or when it's easy, they brake, don't go fast, and then all of a sudden they re-accelerate. So yeah, they know exactly what they can do to make the life as hard as possible for the guys who are maybe not inside the first 20 positions.
Yeah, you were also talking about fatigue resistance. Your fresh power numbers are great, probably world class. And how are you trying to improve your fatigue resistance and to be able to perform in the end of the races?
Yeah, this is an interesting topic. Not so much research is done on this. The 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 most is more like yeah case studies or looking how is in retrospective the performance of different level of riders explained, and then they find that for example the world class guys are just as good as most of the other world tour riders when they look at fresh power numbers. But if they look at power numbers after a certain amount of kilojoules spent, then they will see, okay, now we see a big difference between the guys who do top 10 maybe and the guys who are not able to do that. Um, and then the training side, there are coming a few studies out recently about yeah how to improve fatigue resistance. For sure, it's related also to efficiency. So how much energy you spend for each watt, and the less energy you spend, the more you have in reserve for the final climb or the final effort, and also probably substrate utilization. So how many grams of carbs and how many grams of fats you burning, and you always try to increase the amount of fats you burn and reduce the glycogen dependency in all the hours before the race. So this is the two most important factors. And how to train it, it's not 100% clear, but for sure total training volume is very important. So just doing more hours and more training years also will help with that. and yeah, then maybe try to replicate the race demands in training. So do longer rides and include intervals inside those long yeah rides. Not only go out and do your hard interval session and then go back, but maybe do 2 or 3 hours already before the intervals, and then start the hard session. So this is maybe also a good training method to improve.
Yeah, on Strava, you are usually posting also some, let's say, blogs or articles, and you're also making experiments. And how are you trying to improve your fatigue resistance? Because you have done some crazy workouts, I think, too.
Yeah. I studied sports science, bachelor and master degree, and I'm really into all the topics related to endurance sports. And yeah, sometimes when I read something new, I try it to do it on myself. I built up a little lab here in Cologne where I can test myself and also other riders. So I have a metabolic card to measure oxygen consumption and lactate and also NEARS, so the muscle oxygenation. And yeah, with that, I always try to see on myself and also other people what I can learn from them. And the specific topic fatigue resistance, I think, yeah, the most important one is just consistent and high volume training. So try 20-25 hours training per week. And yeah, sometimes I also do now intervals inside the long ride. So I do a 5 hour ride, and then maybe I do in the first 2 hours no intervals. Then I do some climbs full gas, and then even in the last hour some more intervals to really get close to the race demands. But yeah, the best thing also for that is just racing. So it's hard to replicate all the efforts you have to do in a race in training. This was also a recent topic I had in my Strava post. So I counted the efforts you have to do above threshold in a race, and I did two flat races in France. Both were 4 hours and 10 minutes, I think, and I did close to 1,000 efforts above critical power, and every effort was around 4 seconds. So I named the post 1,000 times 4 seconds. So this is not a typical training session you would do in training, but it's just what you have to do in racing. And yeah, so if you do more race days, also you will see you develop slowly, but for sure you get also better at the racing demands. And then you see some World Tour riders, they have 50 to 70 race days per year, and maybe 5 years of doing this. And yeah, you can be pretty certain that they have a good fatigue resistance just by doing those long and hard races.
Yeah, those both French races were won by Visma bike rider Mathieu Brenner, who is only 19-year-old, and he won those
Yeah,
sprints pretty easily, I would say.
yeah, it was crazy. But also there you see he was riding top 20 positions maybe the whole day. So Uh, yeah, it's also just a game of positioning. And if you can enter a corner, uh, top 20, and just cruise through it and don't have to sprint afterwards, then you save a lot of energy throughout the whole day. So one thing is, of course, he was by far the strongest, but also he's had a really good team around him. They rode perfectly for him, and then you can easily win the sprint if you have all the yeah combination of factors that make your life easy.
Yeah, you also are measuring in your lab VO2 max, and in one of your posts, you also had a graph with VO2 max and efficiency and how it relates. And not always the highest VO2 max is the best, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, that's true. I think this is one of the topics I'm most interested in at the moment. So how those two numbers influence each other. We often see there are also studies that looked into this. We see that the riders who have a really high, yeah, you say, or big engine, they use a lot of fuel to run the engine, It's not 100% clear why it's it. Maybe it's also related to muscle fiber composition. So having a bit more type 2 fibers will probably increase your VO2 max, yeah, because yeah, they just can produce more force. But on the other hand, they are not so efficient. So each muscle contraction needs more energy. Other stuff that influences this is, for example, your heart size. So having a really big heart is good because it can pump a lot of blood in your body. But on the other hand, a really big heart also needs a big lot of fuel to run those muscle contractions, because the heart is also a muscle, and the heart muscle itself is really inefficient. So in this regard, yeah, having the biggest heart is good if you want to have a really high VO2 max, but on the other hand, it's not so good if you want to be as efficient as possible. And I think we see some data of guys who have a really high VO2 max above 90, but they never win big races. And I think most of the guys who are really good in cycling, for sure they have a high VO2 max, but they are probably not the guys who have the highest ones. I would love to see data of maybe Pogacar or Vingegaard or all the mutants right now, Evenepoel and all the riders, but I'm pretty sure they don't excel so much in VO2 max, but more in other parameters like lactate threshold and really good efficiency, very good fuel utilization, so not burning too many carbs. And then you see them riding Grand Tour stages every day, same power output, they don't fatigue, and they can produce the best power numbers even after a 4 or 5 hour stage.
Yeah, the problem with Pogacar that he said in interview with Peter Attia that he hasn't done a VO2 max lab test since junior years or under 23 years, so
Yeah,
he even has no idea what his current values are. But the thing with pro cyclists are that they are doing lab tests usually in winter or in the period where there are no races, but in theory their highest values would be during the Tour of France. Yeah, so
yeah.
maybe if they would do a lab test in the second week, second rest day of the Tour de France, their values would be like shockingly high.
Yeah. That's also a bit of the problem. In general, the cyclists are doing not so much lab testing. I think other sports they are doing more of it, like triathlon or runners, but also they don't have so many competition days. So if you do 70 days in a season competitions, then you don't need so much more testing because you see every day in the races how your fitness is. On the other hand, if a triathlete only do 2 or 3 races per year, then they have enough time to do all the lab tests. And yeah, so I think it's a bit of a logistic and maybe a training programming on why they don't do it so much. But for sure, it would be interesting to see their data. I think there's one study published by Inigo San Milan where they at least showed the lactate curve of all the riders of Team UAE, and then you can maybe, yeah, I guess that Pogacar had the best values there. And if you calculate, for example, power at 4 millimole, he was already above 6 watts per kilo in this publication. And I think it was from 2019. So the data set maybe comes from 2018 or even before that. I'm not so sure. But yeah, the VO2 max numbers or efficiency numbers of world-class cyclists are very rarely published in scientific journals or freely available. I think there was one rumor on Twitter 1 or 2 years ago on Jonas Vingegaard having a VO2 max above 90. I
Yeah, it
think
was
his dad was
97, but I think in the end it was fake news.
yeah. I think his dad said it in an interview, but then later a coach of Wismar's denied in an interview that he has just normal values in the high 80s. So this was also fit with my thought that the best guys probably don't have the highest VO2 maxes, but just a combination of all parameters in the end that will benefit them or makes them so strong.
Also, in your blogs on Strava, you had VO2 max 88, I think, and then in other tests you had even lower VO2 max but higher efficiency. And what is your optimal, let's say, VO2 max and efficiency? Have you found it yet?
I'm still looking to find it. Um, I try now in the winter to maybe not improve VO2 max too much, but more efficiency and sustained power output. So I did a lot of tempo, so around first lactate threshold 300 watts for me, and also a lot of longer efforts to improve the climbing. So I also saw in the tests that this didn't improve my VO2 max, but as you said, my efficiency went up. So in the end, I think it's if you want to target longer races in cycling, it's better to maybe let some gains on the road in VO2 max and just get more efficient, improve fat oxidation, improve lactate threshold, and this in the end will probably make you better in longer climbs and the stage racing.
And what do you think is the minimum VO2 max to be, let's say, competitive in virtual races or to be a pro cyclist? Like, is it like 75, 80, 70?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. I heard one interview of Mark Cavendish where they did a VO2 max or a lab test with him. I think it was a German guy, Sebastian Weber, who did the test. And afterwards, they say to him he better quit cycling and start a different sport. And as we all know, he's the most successful Tour de France sprinter now. So yeah, it's hard to put a number on it. It also depends what's your goal. If you want to be a sprinter or just a breakaway specialist, I would say maybe 65, 70 is good enough. If you're Tim Millier and have the best sprint in the world and make it also to the sprint, then your VO2 max is not the rate limiting or the most important parameter. But for a climber, I would say, yeah, 75 to 80 is what what is needed to be at least competitive. But then different different parameters will decide who wins and who doesn't win.
Yeah, with Mark Cavendish, that story has been told, I think, 100 times, but it was probably when he was 20, yeah, because he was riding for a German Conti team and then for Team Mobile, and probably he was also unfit in that lab test as a sprinter, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I also did lab testing with the whole bike aid team, and it was funny. I later correlated the success they had in the year before to the all the metrics I got from the test, and actually VO2 max was not so well correlated with the pro cycling stats points. Uh, the most the best correlation was between fat max and results, and just peak power output and lactate threshold I think was number 2 and 3. But also it was a small group, only 9 riders, and of the 9 I think 3 or 4 had 0 points, so it's already a bit shit to do it. But it was just an interesting thought I had to see how well the lab test results are correlated with real world let's say results in races.
Also, the hot topic in cycling now are crank length because Pogacar was riding with 165 millimeters last year, and now like all the teams I think are switching to that, or at least most of the teams, especially Visma Lease bike, where we saw Jonas had 150 millimeter cranks on his time trial bike. And what do you think about that? Because you also are testing crank length a lot.
Yeah, I can show you real quick. I have the bike here.
Okay, yeah,
So
you can see how many possible crank lengths you have there.
yeah, I think I have everything between 145 and 180. Yeah, it was also, as you said, a hot topic in practice. I think from a research point, most studies have been done more than 20 years ago, and I think most studies conclude that it doesn't matter really what length you ride. So they tested between 120 and 220, and only at the really ends of the length they tested, they found a little bit worse results. So if you go 120 or 220, maybe you lose 5%, but between the range that is normally used, I think it doesn't matter so much. Or this was at least what most studies concluded. But then also you have to see those studies are not being done on world-class cyclists, and on this level, a few percent difference will make or break your results. So the difference between Vingegaard and Pogačar is maybe not even 1% in fitness, and still one guy wins everything and the other guy gets second. So for sure there is something to gain in the highest level. So this is also why I choose to buy those very special looking cranks and test it on myself. And I have done quite a few tests. I did sprinting tests. I looked at efficiency in the lab. I did longer efforts. I did torque efforts, so low cadence, maximal force production, to see how this influences or this is influenced by crank length. And what I found was, for example, for sprinting, my best length was 160 millimeters, but also there, even going as short as 145 didn't. It was maybe 20 or 30 watts. I did, I think, 10 sprints in total on every length during multiple days, and I didn't find really big differences. And for efficiency, I did find that the shorter length most of the time are a bit better. So 160 and 150 were better than going to longer cranks, but also there it was only 2 or 3% difference. But yeah, maybe this is something that makes a difference in the end in race results. But on the other side, for sure, as the cranks go shorter, and the torque is the product of force multiplied by length. So same force, lower length, then you lose a bit of torque. And this is also what I saw in the low cadence, high torque efforts, that your torque production capacity, let's say this, is lower with shorter cranks. So you always have to balance different, balance efficiency, balance torque production, and maybe sprinting power or sustainable power on longer climbs. And some studies also say it's dependent on leg length. So a shorter guy should also go on shorter cranks. But on the other hand, some studies also say it's not dependent on crank length. So I think there's still some room for more research. And I think because it's now a hot topic, in a few years we will see a lot of new studies on it, and maybe then we know more. But it also takes a lot of time to get a research project going, recruit all the participants, and then maybe 1 or 2 years later you can finally publish it. So it will probably take a lot of time.
Yeah, it sounds really difficult because there are like different riders, different heights, different leg length. Then there's so much stuff, and you also must get a professional cyclist to do those studies, and it sounds difficult.
Yeah, for sure. And then the protocol you do the test in is probably not what you do in a normal race. So just do a 5 minute effort and then see, okay, how is the crank length affecting the 5 minute power, as we already talked about. Has nothing to do with doing 10 climbs in a day and the last one full gas and 20 sprints before you even got to this point. So also there, I think it's a bit of a methods problem to really see in practice what's good and what's bad. But I see now in a GCN video they interviewed a lot of pro cyclists, and I think there a lot of guys also said they were going a bit shorter. Even the bigger Visma guy, Eduardo Affini, I think it was, he said he was on 165. So for sure, it's a trend that is not only Pogačar but also in the whole peloton thing.
Yes, and what is your crank length right now?
Yeah, I switched to also 165. I was deciding between 160 and 165. As I said, a bit better efficiency on the shorter cranks, but then 165 is also a bit more close to, let's say, my teammates. So if I maybe get a spare bike from a teammate or have to change bikes, then it's a bit easier. And also if I get like new team bikes, Shimano cranks are not available in 160, maybe a bit more in 165. So also a bit of practical reasoning behind 165. And then in the end, yeah, if Pogačar does it, it can't be so bad for you.
Yeah, he also is the almost the same height as you too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And what about the carbs? How many carbs you are eating per hour? Maybe you're also like making experiments on that and even trying to eat as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure. It's also a hot topic. I think there, from a research perspective, there's not so much evidence that more is better, or at least more than 90 grams per hour. I think it's normally regarded as the limit in sports science. But as we said, also there, they don't test on World Tour cyclists who train 25 hours a week and do 70 race days where they eat all the time and probably get used to the large amounts of carbohydrates. Um, but we see that if you eat a lot of carbs, this has not only positive effects, also maybe your fat metabolism gets suppressed a bit. If you eat a lot of carbs, it's not that you gain all the watts you have from the energy. It's more like the substrates just change. So you have higher carbohydrate oxidation and lower fat oxidation. And I think you can even go as far as eating too much, then you suppress all your body, let's say, energy producing mechanisms, so fat oxidation and also the glucose output of the liver. Um, and this for sure is also then not so good. So, for example, I had a few races last year where they were quite easy and then only one mountaintop finish. But maybe 180 kilometers in total and 4 hours easy, 150 watts, 160 watts, and then one mountaintop finish. And sometimes I had the feeling if I eat too much during the first easy 4 hours, I struggled more compared to when I just eat a bit less and relied more on fat oxidation and yeah, my own liver glycogen stores. And I had the theory maybe if you suppress all those mechanisms, so hepatic glucose output and fat oxidation, you actually bonk faster compared to eating normal. Yeah, so a bit. It's there's also a phenomenon in medicine. It's called rebound hypoglycemia. So if you eat a lot and then don't eat anything, your sugar levels drop more than if you eat a little bit and then nothing. And yeah, on the last climb, you cannot eat so much, so you get this rebound hypoglycemia. And this was a bit my theory behind it. I have tested it a bit with continuous glucose monitor on the arms. Uh, you cannot do it in races because it's forbidden, but you can maybe try to replicate races a bit in training and have then it at least once. And there I also saw that easy riding, putting in maybe 120, 150 grams per hour, and then push 1 hour full gas for to simulate a climb, you actually see that the blood sugar drops really low in the effort, and then you can feel a bit dizziness or close to bonking, let's say. And yeah, this is also a topic that I try to improve on, and maybe yeah, on the easy stages, don't eat so much, and yeah, keep the your own energy systems running better.
Yeah, last season you did Sibiu Tour where there were two Motentov finishes and yeah, 4 hours of easy riding before that. And what would be optimal, let's say, carbs per hour on those stages? Let's say on the flat sections.
Yeah, those were also the two races I experienced this feeling. So actually, an easy stage, then I eat a lot, and then I go to the last climb and still feel empty after maybe 20 minutes. And this was also the reason why I tried to test it. So optimal, it's hard to say. It also depends on probably on your body size, not because bigger bodies can absorb more carbohydrates. This is not so much related to body size, but more because a bigger rider also has to push more watts just because he's not so aero and yeah, he gets more wind in his face. So Yeah, it depends a bit. I would say on an easy stage, 60 grams per hour is probably enough. And then maybe just before the climb, do two gels extra, and then probably you are fine. But I'm not 100% sure on that, and I still try to figure it out because also research cannot tell you the exact answer on that because it's not a protocol that is tested in scientific studies. But I would say maybe it's not the best idea to eat like you are racing really hard, but just sit in the peloton and pedal easy, and then maybe it has some negative effects in the end.
Yeah, so it's the same as with the crank length, VO2 max, and efficiency. Yeah, that the answer is really hard to find. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's always it depends. There's one sports science podcast, Empirical Cycling, and he does a questionnaire every weekend, and most of the time he also answers it depends. It's a bit not so fulfilling to give you this answer, but yeah, it's just the truth. It's always not so easy to say a certain number and uh, give an exact answer.
Yeah, probably I think you have a higher chance to be in World Tour as a coach than a rider, I think, at this moment.
Yeah, probably yes. Yeah. Also regarding my age, I'm already 25. But yeah, I will see. In the end, if I don't make it as a rider myself, then for sure I will try to get a different role there.
Yeah, probably. I think yeah, some teams should offer you a contract as a coach.
Yeah.
So some I don't know like Red Bull, Visma, yeah, who are also trying to experiment with the stuff. Yeah. What else? Like, are there any hot topics in sports science right now?
Mm, I think heat training or combining heat and altitude training is a hot topic. There are some new research projects also there. For example, if a rider does altitude training camp, then the main benefit they have is just increased red blood cell mass. So having more oxygen carrying capacity there. But we also know that this effect doesn't last so long. So if you come down from a mountain and then have a race 4 weeks after, you probably lose all the extra red cells you have produced there. So there is a new research also there that if you do heat training after your altitude training, you can prevent this loss in red blood cell mass. So this is also a topic, or maybe even combining both training methods. So going to an altitude camp and doing some heat training there, because we know, for example, also that if you go to altitude, the first thing that happens there is that you lose blood volume. Yeah, it's mainly because you lose the plasma volume, so the fluid compartment of your blood, and we know that heat training expands the plasma volume. So in theory, combining both should get you the benefit from one, the heat training, so more plasma volume, and two, the altitude training, so you get more red blood cell mass. So I think this is a topic that will be maybe even implemented right now. For sure, we also don't know exactly what each World Tour team is doing in training at the moment, but I think this will be probably the next big thing, and maybe even yeah, special training interventions, let's say. So blood flow restriction training is a topic that is quite big in research. There are a lot of studies that shows if you put an occlusion band around your arms or legs and then do training, that this has big potential for improvement. For example, VO2 max improvement. There's one research group in from Cologne where I also studied that showed 8% improvement in VO2 max in just 6 weeks in very well trained rowers. And yeah, also in cyclists, there is a bit of research that shows that this is a very, let's say, potent stimulus. And yeah, the last thing maybe is adding vibration to your training. I think Bent Rønnestad is doing a bit of research on it. So they put the trainer on a vibration plate and then do intervals like this. And they show that this also gets you quite big improvements. But yeah, maybe it's not so practical to do it, or you can ride your cobblestones at home all the day. But yeah, this is at least from a research point, this is yeah some special training interventions that showed good results.
Yeah, like from this, I get that people are ready to do anything to get better. Yeah, to do crazy shit with their bodies, so their bodies adapt to the training stress and improve.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You just can see how the peloton looks at the moment. So all the helmets and the aero equipment, it already looks stupid. So for sure, also the training will only get more crazy.
Yes, like it's so crazy. But okay, let's talk about your season goals. You will probably do many climbing races like last year. And what are your goals this season? What you want to achieve in the races?
Mm, yeah, goal setting is also a topic. The best goal setting is not to do a strict result or an outcome goal, more a process goal. So the best goal should be always I try, for example, to eat directly after training every day a 38-gram protein shake, or I try to get at bed every day at latest 11 o'clock. So this is a better goal setting than doing going. I want to finish top 10 into the Jura, but for sure I also try to get a good result in those races. But it's not so easy to say or give you a direct number. But I would say being more consistent, don't have so many let's say bad days in racing, and yeah, if I can get a maybe top 10 in a well in a good race, then I would be really happy.
Yeah, because last year you had a good start in Tour of Antalya, and this season you have only raced two flat races in France. So yeah,
Yeah,
we still
yeah,
don't know if you will improve or will be more consistent in races like Sibiu Tour or on the International Tour of Hellas. Yeah, maybe where there are huge climbs, which in theory should suit you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Tour of Hellas will be the first proper test for the fitness, and then the French mountain races in the Jura area. This will also be a big race for me. Unfortunately, we will not be doing a Tour of Turkey this year. We didn't get the invitation with the team, so this was also in the last years a good race. But this year we are not there. But yeah, we will see. Probably ZBO2 is also again on the calendar this year, and yeah, similar calendar compared to last year.
Yeah, so your team is quite perfect for you, I think. Yeah, in the end, at least it can get to the races, which suits you perfectly in theory.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think from the racing program, it's a perfect fit, and as good as it can get in a Conti team.
Okay, yeah, thanks for listening. I think it was very insightful. Yeah, because you're a crazy guy who is ready to experiment with your body in world of science. Yeah, to test the crank length, the VO2 max, the efficiency, everything. Yeah, so yeah, thanks for giving us your insights.
Thanks for having me.